Okay, I need to talk about a game. It's about 30 minutes long, it costs less than a pint, and it came out years ago. It won an actual award, and I would put money on the fact that you have never heard of it. There's no monster chasing you down a hallway, there are basically no jump scares. For most of it, you can't even die. Nothing is attacking you. But it is still one of the most genuinely unsettling things I've ever played in my life. So the question this whole video is really about is one word: how? How do you take something this small, this cheap, this quiet, and make it crawl this far under someone's skin? Here's a taste of what we're dealing with. This is Paratopic, and by the time we're done here, I reckon it'll be living in your head too. So let's get the basics down, because they do matter. Paratopic came out in 2018, and it was made by 3 people: Doc Burford, Jessica Harvey, and Lazzie Brown, under the name Arbitrary Metric. On a budget so small, they cheerfully called their toolset the No Money Special. Unity, some free software, a script hammered out in Twine, that's it. 3 people in a digital shed. And what they built with it punches so far above its weight, it's almost rude. It won excellence in audio at the Independent Games Festival. Hold that thought, because the sound in this game is doing more heavy lifting than most AAA budgets manage.
That's pretty good.
And it turned up on best of the year lists out of absolutely nowhere. It looks like this. It's deliberately, aggressively PlayStation 1. Jagged models, smeared textures, faces that move like they're being remembered rather than seen.
Imagine describing a dog to someone who's never seen one before and then asking them to draw it.
Everyone and their nan is doing pixel art these days. These 3 went the other way and resurrected the ugly, polygonal, uncanny look of early 3D, which is also quite prevalent now, but it probably wasn't as in 2018. And as we'll see, that ugliness is not an accident, it's a thesis. And here's the pitch. There's 3 people: a smuggler, a birdwatcher, and an assassin. 3 different times, the same cursed patch of the world. Their stories are cut together like someone took 3 different films, shredded the reels, and spliced the strips back at random. Except it isn't random. Nothing here is random. It just wants you to think that it is. Quick warning, I'm going to spoil all of it. And this is a game that's genuinely better the first time you played it, when you've got no idea what's happening. It's like half an hour, 40 minutes, and if you've not played it, go and be confused properly. Then come back. I'll wait. Right. Before we go any further into the dark, a quick word from the people keeping the lights on. And honestly, for once, it actually kind of fits. Today's video is sponsored by Omen Exito Hunger. Funny timing this. We're sat here talking about cursed tapes and cosmic dread leaking into the ordinary world, and Omen Exito is built out of exactly that DNA, except it drags it back to 1927 Brooklyn. You play a journalist. You pull on the thread of a missing persons case, the kind of small, grimy local mystery you think you understand, and it unravels fast into something vast and cosmic and very much from beyond the edges of the map. It's a narrative gamebook, so it's all about choices, and yours genuinely shape the story, branching out to 5 distinct endings. You explore the city on an interactive map, and the real meat is the interrogations. You lean on people with deception, or empathy, or straight pressure to prise the truth out of them. And it looks gorgeous in a way I wasn't expecting. Stark black and white comic book art, over 900 hand-drawn illustrations clearly raised on Frank Miller. Most striking Lovecraftian noir thing I've seen in ages. If you're into the Cthulhu mythos, proper investigative games, or you grew up on choose-your-own-adventure books, this is aimed dead at you. It's out now. Grab it through the links in the description and the ones pinned in the comments. It rules and it genuinely helps the channel out. Right, back to the rod. The game opens mid-interrogation. You're in what looks like an old subway tunnel repurposed as a border checkpoint, and a customs agent is grilling you. You've been caught with undeclared goods and somebody tipped them off. You have an enemy friendo, someone you know wanted you stopped. You can lawyer up, play dumb, pass the tapes off as home movies, even fish for a bribe, but none of it changes anything. The agent decides he's going to have a look at these tapes himself, and you tell him flatly that he really shouldn't. And then it cuts mid-scene, right before you find out what's on them. You see some flashing blue light from the room he disappears to, but you don't find out what they do to him. Get used to that, because it's the single most important thing this game does. Paratopic is built out of interruptions. The developers have said it outright. The cuts work precisely because they sever a scene a half second before your own brain gets the closure it wants. They put that room on pause and walk off. So hold on to the agent and his tapes. The game's pocketed that ending and it isn't giving it back until the very last minute. And Burford has a name for the real main character here. Not the smuggler, the birdwatcher, or even the assassin. The camera, the thing you're actually playing as, is the edit. So let's untangle it, and it is tangled on purpose. We now cut to a diner and there's a new character. A woman on the phone with a man who keeps calling her babe. This is the assassin. He runs her through it. On the table in front of her, there's a revolver, 6 bullets that you have to manually load, and a camera. Hold the camera. And out the window, there's a body in the road being picked apart by crows. Hold that too. Both of those mean far more than you can possibly know yet. But cut again. Now you're the smuggler, getting your own briefing from a handler. Follow the instructions assassins don't deviate. You saw what happened last time. The tapes are waiting in your flat, and you gotta cross the border, drop them at the usual places, and whatever you do not watch them. They'll know if you do. And then the line that quietly tells you what this whole game is actually about. The debts. They're not my debts, you say. They're yours now. You inherited them. You are smuggling cursed contraband to work off a debt that was never yours, with no end in sight for people who call them a dog they throw scraps to. Then you walk back to your flat, a dilapidated block, and a lift that makes you wait, and then simply teleports you upstairs the instant you step in. That's a deliberate gag from the team, dead time snapping straight into dislocation. A neighbor out in the hall smoking tells you men were just in your apartment. The communal bathroom is a horror in miniature. Black sludge coughing out of the tap, and a tape hidden behind the mirror, worn down to pure static from being watched into oblivion. Your flat, a crate on the mattress, stamped with the Power Company logo, full of tapes, and the neighbor turns up at your door begging, "I'm starving, give me the juicy one," obviously referring to the tapes. You can shut her out or hand one over, and if you do, her face blooms open like a flower and she sinks down, nodding off like she's just taken a hit. She doesn't die, she just needs another tape. Sit with what that's telling you. Then you drive. And the driving is where people fall in love with the game because it should be the boring bit and it's quietly unbearable. There's an empty highway, endless headlights, and on the passenger seat, a box of tapes, or the assassin's gun, or nothing at all. Swapping places sometimes. You genuinely cannot tell who's behind the wheel. The radio babbles, but the road never ends. And I have to stop and talk about the sound because it's the reason all of this lands. This game won an award for its audio, and you can hear why in about 10 seconds. Corroding 80s synths and smudged industrial low end, the noise of machinery left out in the rain. But the clever bit is what it does across the cuts. When the game severs a scene mid-sentence and throws you somewhere else, the audio doesn't reset. It carries, it bleeds, it picks back up like a tape that's been spliced. So even when your eyes are getting yanked between 3 different people in 3 different times, your ears are being told quietly that this is all one continuous thing. The sound is the thread holding the wreckage together. Take it away, and the whole game collapses into noise. The petrol stations run the same trick. Mundane small talk with dread sat at the edge of frame. The attendant rambles, energy shots named after demons, a motel that burned down, electric rocks south of the border where shamans supposedly communed with beings from another world. And if you ask, the thing the whole town is built on the corpse of. The power company, the electrical plant, biggest employer in the state, shut down after some accident about 14 years ago that nobody really knows the truth of. There's even a museum in town, apparently, full of strange things people drag back out of the woods where the company used to be. Relics that do weird stuff sometimes. On your second stop, you finally see your own car at the pump, with a tall, dark, wrong figure standing right next to it. And then you're the birdwatcher, pulled over at night, a crate in the boot. Open it, and it's just a camera. Her crate has no logo. She's nobody. An innocent who wandered into the wrong woods. You head in, photographing crows, following a grey bird deeper. You find a shack, a mattress, some cans, someone lived here. And behind that, a basement, a locked door that swings open the moment you turn away from it. And down into a buried facility, a pit with a broken ladder, a huge toppled sphere trailing strands, and a panel you can power back on. It plays a recording. "Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. My name is Dr. Algernon Khan. On behalf of the power company, I'd like to welcome you to our humble project. Thank you once again for the sacrifices you've made. Because of you, the future is bright." That's the closest thing to an answer this game will ever give you. Sacrifices, a bright future, a project that clearly went catastrophically wrong, and it's buried in a room most players walk straight past and never find. Everything beyond that, the rifts, the dimensions, what the tapes truly are, is you and the rest of the internet filling in the dark. The game itself states almost nothing. It just leaves the door open and dares you to walk through. Then the birdwatcher follows a river and a leaning dead windmill, the one from the menu, the one stamped on the diner's sign, and a dome on the horizon. Up a switchback, you find a danger sign lying on the ground you can flip over, and a figure standing ahead. Look at it through your camera and the image tears into static. The game is tracking your gaze the same way that grey bird only bolted when you stopped aiming at it. Get close or try to be clever about it, and it blinks out with a ding, and then it's behind you, and that's the end of the birdwatcher. Not a tape, a monster. And then everything folds back on itself. The assassin's job plays out. She breaks into the diner's back room, all power company crates and an occult sign bleeding up through the corporate one, and kills the manager. To finish, you feed the tapes into a player, and each time it rewinds you to the instant after the kill, until finally it cuts back to the very start. The border, the agent. He watched the tapes after all. He lumbers out, his head now a flickering television, his whole body fraying apart into static and air, and he leaves one line burning on the TV screen. "Be seeing you, friendo." That is the payoff the game pocketed in the first 60 seconds, and friendo is the agent's own word for you from that opening breath. "Be seeing you," for the record, is lifted straight from The Prisoner, a show about a man trapped somewhere he can't leave, watched by people he can't see. Nothing here is an accident. And then the real ending. The assassin walking the birdwatcher's forest, every footstep glitch skipping her forward like a tape being scrubbed. The cameras are all dead now, the danger signs already flipped, because you're coming through after the birdwatcher this time. And there she is, torn apart, her arm still tendriling around a metal pole, the camera lying at its foot. You pick it up and the assassin makes a phone call, a body in the woods past the old concrete meatworks. I think it was a girl, and when the operator asks for her name, she hangs up. Credits, and on your way out, faint under everything, the sound of a tape being ejected. Right, but I can't just leave it there, because I know exactly what you're thinking. What actually happened? What's on the tapes? Who's the woman on the phone? What is the thing in the woods? Give me answers. And here's a genuinely interesting bit. The game does not hand you a plot, but it isn't random either. It's a puzzle box. Pay attention on a second run and you can reconstruct a shocking amount of it. So let's actually try, and watch how far we get before it slams the door in our face. Start with the order, because the events are deliberately shuffled, and a few objects let you put them back. The big one is that camera. It belongs to the birdwatcher. It's literally in her crate, and yet it turns up sitting on the assassin's table in the diner, which means the diner scene happens after the birdwatcher is already dead. Same with that body in the road being picked apart by crows outside the diner window. The birdwatcher was the one obsessed with crows, photographing them right up until the end. That's her. The ending of one thread is bleeding into the opening shot of another, and there's a danger sign in the forest you can physically flip over as the birdwatcher, and when the assassin walks the exact same path later, it's already flipped. The game is leaving you breadcrumbs to reassemble its own timeline. It's not chaos, it's a deck of cards that's been shuffled on purpose. So reassemble it and you get something like this. The birdwatcher, an innocent, no logo on her crate, nothing to do with any of it, wanders into the woods, photographs her crows, stumbles onto the ruins of the power company, and gets killed by the thing that lives there. Later, the assassin is sent in, her job, in her own words, bring us every trace. She kills the man running the diner, which turns out to be a front, its back room stacked with power company crates and the tapes, and she walks out with the tapes. And somewhere in all of this is the smuggler, drowning in a debt that isn't even his, ordered to run a crate of tapes across the border, who gets stopped because somebody grassed him up. You have an enemy, friendo. And the most likely candidate for that enemy? Probably the assassin, tying off her own loose end because she seems very opposed to the tapes. So that's the shape. Now the factions, and this is where it gets foggy on purpose. There's the power company, an electricity firm, the biggest employer in the state, that had some catastrophic accident about 14 years ago that nobody will explain, tied to a project, a pit in the ground, sacrifices, and a monster. Their logo is also, if you tilt your head, an occult sigil. There's a museum in town where people bring back the strange relics they dig out of the company's ruins. And there's whoever the assassin answers to, someone who doesn't want these tapes spread or sold, but seized. Every trace. So you can sketch a quiet little war out of it. One side smuggling this stuff out into the world, and one side trying to claw every last copy back. Containment versus spread. And the tapes themselves? Take your pick. They're treated like a drug. The neighbor starving, begging, blooming open and nodding off, they're treated like contraband worth killing over. And given what's sitting behind that barn, a concrete meatworks, a building that exists to process flesh, there's a genuinely grim reading that the tapes are recordings of what happens to people in there. Snuff, somebody's worst moment, captured, copied, and sold to addicts. And here's the thing, you can stack these clues all night, and the game still will not click shut into one clean answer. People have spun whole theories out of it, that it's a government mind control experiment, that it's aliens, that the power company drilled a hole in reality itself, and what crawled back out is what broke them. The game nods at every one of these, but doesn't confirm a single one. Every door it opens, it just leaves you standing in the frame. And that is not a game that failed to explain itself. That's a game that flatly refuses to, which, finally, is the actual point. So if the plot is a lock the game deliberately won't let you pick, then what is it about? Because here's the trick. Everything we just tried to decode, the tapes, the windmill, the dome, the thing in the woods, all of that is the magician's other hand. Misdirection. Gorgeous, committed, genuinely unsettling misdirection. And it is not what this game is really about. Start with why it was made. Burford's been open that Paratopic began as a reaction against the walking simulator. Games like Dear Esther or Gone Home, where you wander a beautiful empty space and the story is read to you, past tense, after the fact, something that had already happened to somebody else, narrated into your ear while you stroll. He wanted the opposite. He wanted a story that happens to you, now, in the moment, first-hand and disorienting and out of your control. And he wasn't working in a vacuum. You can draw a straight line from Paratopic back to Blendo Games' 30 Flights of Loving, the little game that basically taught the medium you could hard cut between scenes like a film editor and trust the player to keep up. And sitting over the top of all of it is David Lynch, the dream logic of Eraserhead, the highway dread of Lost Highway, the way Twin Peaks lets the ordinary curdle into the unspeakable and never once explain itself. Paratopic takes the smash cut from one and the refusal to resolve from the other and welds them into something that's only really possible in a game. Because in a game, the disorientation isn't happening to a character on screen, it's happening to you holding the controller or the mouse and keyboard right now. And once you see it that way, the editing stops being a gimmick and instead becomes the entire argument. Because here's the thing the cursed tapes are hiding. While they were making this, the real subject took over. And it wasn't aliens, it was poverty. Go back to that smuggler, the cupboard he lives in, the debt that isn't even his, that he inherited, that he'll never clear. A town built on the corpse of a power plant that shut down and took every job with it. Rent so cheap because there's nothing left and nobody wants to be here. Burford said the rot you're walking through is the slow decline of the actual town he grew up in. This is a game about a dying place and the people who can't afford to leave it. And this dread didn't come from nowhere. Burford's talked about where the pieces came from, and almost all of it is disarmingly, mundanely real. The unease of the forest that came from a time he got chased through the woods near his house by a man in a uniform. The crackling late-night talk radio in the car, that's there because he used to lie awake listening to Art Bell on the AM band after his parents went to bed. There's even a stray detail rooted in animal control turning up at the family home once, over a false report. None of it is cosmic, it's the texture of an ordinary, slightly precarious life run through enough grain and dread that it curdles into nightmare, which is the whole trick. The horror here isn't alien, it's just your life lit badly. And now look at the tapes again. A substance that ruins your life, that you know is killing you, that you chase anyway. Just one more hit of somewhere other than here. The neighbor blooming open and nodding off, begging for the next one. That's not cosmic horror, it's just addiction. The most ordinary horror there is, dressed up in a rubber monster suit so it can sneak past you. And look at how the economy of it actually runs, because it's the same trap twice over. The handler gives the smuggler scraps, cheap lesser tapes, specifically to keep the addicts in the building quiet. So the tape is the poison and the currency. You're hooked so you owe so you push so someone else gets hooked, and round it goes, with the people at the top getting fat off a substance that's hollowing out everyone beneath them. Strip the eldritch coat of paint off that and it's just drugs, it's just dead. It's just the machine these people are caught in, and the cosmic horror is only there to make you feel the size of the machine. And there's one more thread running under all of it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is a game obsessed with cameras. Watch how often it comes up. The border agent, right before he does the thing he shouldn't, reassures himself out loud, no cameras out here. The forest is full of security cameras on poles, swiveling to track the birdwatcher as she walks to her death. The monster, the one genuinely supernatural thing in the whole game, has exactly one rule: it cannot be filmed. Point a lens at it and that image tears itself apart. And then there's the camera itself, the single object that travels through the entire story, passed from the dead birdwatcher's hands to the assassin onto the table in that diner. The people are disposable, the recording is not. That's the horror sitting underneath the loud one. In a world this broke and this watched, the footage outlives the person. The tape is forever, you are not. And the tape everyone is killing and dying over are, when you strip the magic off, just recordings of somebody's worst moment, suffering, captured, copied, smuggled, sold, and consumed like a drug. Content. And the very last thing the game does, after the credits, after the body, is turn that camera around to face you, the one who's been watching this the whole time. And this is where it all clicks together, and why I think this scruffy little half-hour game is smarter than things 1,000 times its size. The form is the feeling. Think about what it actually feels like to live the life this game is describing. Precarious, knackering, days that smear into each other, a life so fractured you couldn't tell it as a clean story even if someone asked you to. Because it isn't one. It's fragments, interruptions, half-remembered rooms and drives that go nowhere. Things looming at the edge of the frame that you're too tired to turn and look at. That's the edit. That is exactly what Paratopic does to you. It refuses to cohere because the lives inside of it refuse to cohere. It withholds closure because there is no closure on offer. The grain, the smear, the face is remembered instead of seen. That's not a stylistic choice slapped on top. That is what it feels like from the inside. The game makes you live in the edit because the people in it are already living in the edit. It doesn't tell you about dread and poverty and disassociation. It makes you hold them in your hands, in your own car, swapping places on the passenger seat the second you stop looking. Now, is it perfect? No. And I'd be doing it a disservice to pretend the criticism isn't real. It's short, the ending's abrupt by design, but by design doesn't always stop it feeling like a door slammed early. And there's a genuine argument, a fair one, that Paratopic leans on confusion as a substitute for depth. That if you withhold absolutely everything, you can make almost anything look profound, and let the player do the work of being scared on your behalf. I don't fully agree, but anyone who bounces off this game hard is bouncing off something real, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong for finding it frustrating. What I'd say is this: the developers always insisted that there's a real structure under the chaos. A proper narrative arc stretched right to the edge of breaking but never actually snapped. Lines planted early that only pay off once you've been through it. A camera on a table that means nothing until it means everything. A body outside a diner that you don't understand until the very last scene. It rewards the second look, and the fact that the lead designer still, later, turns up to correct people. No, the smuggler's a bloke. No, the story isn't over yet. Tells you this was never random noise. Someone knew exactly what they were withholding holding. They just trusted you to sit in the dark with it. And it left a mark much bigger than its size. The audio award is still the first thing people bring up, and rightly. But more than that, Paratopic was part of a small wave of games that made the deliberately ugly PS1 grain anti-walking simulator horror piece a respectable thing to make. You can feel its fingerprints all over a whole genre of itch.io dread that came after it. Burford himself went on to make Adios, another game far more interested in how you feel than how you win. And this one still gets passed around, quietly, person to person, as a thing you put on when you want to be unsettled in a way you can't quite explain to anyone else. And that's the thing I keep coming back to. We've got so used to games that explain themselves, that stop and gloss and drop a marker on the map and read you the lore. Paratopic does the bravest thing a horror game can do. It looks you dead in the eye and says, I'm not going to explain, work it out. Or don't. Be seeing you. It's half an hour long, it's £6, and it will splice itself into the back of your skull and stay there for a week. Go and let it. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Not too much to say on this one. I just wanted a short video because if I am correct and nothing else shows up, the next video is going to be a very, very important project that I'm very, very excited for you all to see. It's quite long, but honestly, months at this point has gone into making it. I've never put so much effort into a video before, so I do hope you enjoy. Thank you so much to today's sponsor. Make sure to check out the link in the description and go check it out. It's a really cool game. But yeah, no, the next video, I believe it's going to be quite good. I have three editors actually working on it, and it has been in production for a fucking minute, and it's my longest video to date. I'm not going to say the exact length, but it is long, so you might want to sit down with some snacks for multiple sessions. But yes, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. This was a weirder game, but I was trying to find something that I could do in the interim that wasn't going to consume my life, and I think this video fit pretty well. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and as always, thank you to the channel members and the Patreons, that of course being Flapjack, 8th Heretic, Vested Voice, Pewter Hailstorm, Risulki Ryler, My Horror Project, Idenios, Kiofer, Andrew Sherman, Shaddix the Great, Norica, Sign Up King 5000, Sisyphus, Reeslun, Ellie Kitty, Hellbug Hunter, Ice Bear Ray, Adrian Lynch, Vibe Cato, Bear Paw, The Radiant Opera, Sign Up King, Crit Croc, Ash Crowing, and Aroxano. Thank you all so much for the support. It truly means the world to me. And yeah, if you want a name read out like this, go join the channel member or become a Patreon. You don't have to, obviously, but it's up to you. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.